Good morning to you. Today, a Georgia judge will determine whether the three men convicted of murdering Ahmaud Arbery will be eligible for parole. Travis McMichael, his father Greg McMichael, and their neighbor, William Roddy Bryan. They were involved in this shooting. Travis, I believe it was, gunned down Arbery while he was jogging through their neighborhood in 2020. In November, a jury convicted all of them of a number of different charges, including murder, which carry mandatory life sentences. Trial attorney Jamie White joins me now. I think the big question is whether they will receive parole. Will the judge even make this a possibility or not? And will it be different for every person?
Good morning. I do think that the judge will look at these individuals as individuals. I suspect that the younger McMichaels will probably not be eligible for parole based on the fact that he pulled the weapon and fired the fatal shot. It's certainly possible that the judge will sentence them all to life without parole, but I suspect that Mr. Bryan will likely be if anybody's going to be eligible for parole, I think it's going to be him, just based on the roles that the individuals played. And it's important to remember, Adrian, that, there's a federal hate crime trial pending and set for, I believe, February 7th in this matter. So, in the event they're convicted there, they could get additional time that would run consecutive to arguably what would be at least 30 years in the event they are eligible for parole.
They would run it consecutively. It's interesting. Is there evidence in your mind that they would be convicted in a hate crime trial?
There is some evidence. The federal prosecutors did not put it all forward, but we know that at least the younger McMichaels was on social media, ranting and using racial epithets and so on. And the crime that he's being charged under is basically says that because of someone's race, you prevent them from using public streets, public throughways, and that sort of thing. I think these facts fit. There's going to be some challenges for these defendants in the federal prosecution, and I suspect there will be a conviction to some degree.
When is the earliest, if they do receive parole in this particular case, that they could be released?
So under Georgia law, if based on what they've been convicted of, the earliest they could be eligible for parole, and I think it's important to remember eligible for parole, it doesn't mean you necessarily get it, would be 30 years. They're spending the majority of the rest of their life in prison, regardless of how the judge weighs in and makes the decision on Friday or today.
And that's something to keep in perspective here. Even if they do get parole, they're serving a minimum 30-year sentence each, which puts one of them in his 90s. But do you think that if the judge does grant parole, there will be a certain response or reaction from the public, from that community there?
Well, I think the community is going to react regardless of which side of the table you sit on. But I expect that the community will remain calm. The convictions were just. It certainly gave people some assurance that the system works for everybody, despite your race. And I don't expect any violence or any sort of uprising.
All right. Attorney Jamie White, thank you very much for your time.